Everyone has a choice. And every choice has a consequence.
I'm bigger than my body.
We didn't defeat the Dark One. We set him free.
Hello, Rosamund. Good to see you. Nice to meet you, Josha. Congratulations on the new season.
Thank you so much.
Moiraine's been heavily defined by her ability to channel the one power. So what is a quality of hers from season 1 that she loses when the access to that power is gone? But then on the other hand, what is a new quality that she gains in season 2 by having to forge forward without that power?
Oh, good question. I mean, well, she loses the ability to channel one power. What quality does she lose with that? She loses, you know, the ability to sort of hold her ground at a distance and be in control. So she gives up a great degree of how in control she feels and how secure she feels. It's security and confidence. So we see a far less confident Moiraine, which is an unfamiliar territory for the character. But we see resilience, and I suppose resilience is her hallmark of season 2, because we see her have to battle this, you know, some of the same enemies and some new ones without recourse to the one power. But we see all the other things that make her remarkable, her ability to play the game of chess. So she's always 16 moves ahead of everybody, and her network of informants who are spreading out across the globe. And we realized that we didn't really fully understand that before. We see her smarts, and we see her intelligence.
I like seeing her rise to the occasion in that respect. Josha, I have a big old two-parter for you as well. So for Rand, what is a new quality that he gained through the events of season 1 that you have enjoyed playing for the first time in season 2? But then I also want to know something about the Rand we met at the Two Rivers in season 1 that, you know, you deliberately wanted to hold tight to emphasize that he is still the same person we met day 1.
Oh, yes. That's an interesting question. In many ways, he is still the same way, but in many ways, he's not. And in many ways, he's trying to run back to the Two Rivers, but also at the same time running away from it. It's always like that. And especially with the Two Rivers and the Two Rivers gang, they throughout the Wheel of Time, whenever they meet each other again, I feel like they want to go back home. You know, it's like they know each other's parents, they've been to each other's birthday parties and whatsoever, Beltines. But then at the same time, there's this thing that they have to do, which is so much more important than that, you know. So they have to, and Rand is doing that. He has said goodbye to his friends, and they think he is dead, so that they are safe, and that he now can live, or at least try to live, a new life by himself.
I'm very curious to see how that goes beyond episode 4, because that's all we've seen thus far. So I'm very eager for more. Rosamund, I'll throw this one to you because I think you might have a little more insight as both an actor in the show and a producer on it as well. How did the experience of making and releasing season 1 impact the approach to season 2, both in terms of maybe applying fan feedback and also valuable lessons learned about, you know, the best way to film the show production-wise?
Well, there are certain sets that we dismantled that we wish we hadn't dismantled, or perhaps had saved. There are I'm very proud of the way that we've reimagined the channeling, which is obviously a key part of the show and was a character in the show. And I think we've managed to set up this really great avenue of collaboration between the VFX team and the individual actors. So I think you'll see fans will enjoy channeling being much more tethered to the character who is weaving the one power, and it will be specific to that character. And I think it's super exciting what we've done there, and I'm very pleased for people to see it. I won't give too many particulars, but it's a big departure from season 1. I'm also excited that we get to explore the villains being verbal characters. Most of our villains in season 1 were Trollocs, who are non-verbal and, worthy opponents, but, you don't have the mind games that we definitely start to get in season 2. And we know that we just want to keep fabulous new characters coming in all the time to surprise people. We've realized that people love being in our show, and we can get a really high caliber of actor to come in for a guest star, and we've all really enjoyed. They come in and have some fun. Sometimes get better lines than us, which we get a bit pissed off about, but we also know that we need to give them some the bait to attract them. So we were happy to play second fiddle to some of the greats who are coming through our doors.
Meaner than my demons,
No one should have that much power.
bigger than these
Madeleine, I'm going to come your way first with a big old compound question. What is a new quality that Egwene gained from the events of season 1 that you enjoyed exploring for the first time in season 2? But then I also want to know something about the version of Egwene that we met in season 1 in the Two Rivers that you knew you wanted to hold tight to still make sure she came across as the same person we met at the start.
Absolutely. I think I might just start with the latter question, if that's okay. I think something that I wanted to hold on to with Egwene that we established at the beginning of season 1, which I think she carries all the way through the entire series, is being a novice of the world. She's ever the eager, learner, and has always got an open mind. So that is something that I think is really integral to playing Egwene. She is very curious. And I think something that I learnt from Egwene going into season 2 is really her resilience. The resilience she had to continue on, to push forward, to strive for greatness, and to play her part in, the turning of the wheel. Even when we find her in season 2 and she is feeling insecure and having a bit of an identity crisis, I think that is still at the heart of what she is seeking out.
Oh, I am coming back to that identity crisis. But first, Daniel, for you. So much of who Lan is has been tied to who he is to Moiraine. So what was it like exploring the push-pull of maintaining that in season 2 while also trying to figure out who he is as an individual on his own?
Both very fun, both very satisfying. I think the push-pull was very much, Rosamund and I focused a lot on that, how we could make that work, what the tone was. And it's always tricky because we built a foundation with these two characters in season 1. It was very calm and it was very even. And so when this disaster sort of started, it was different for both of us. So, it's kind of a vague answer, but we're happy with how it turned out. I was more excited. I'm very excited to, for people to see this solo journey that he went on, because I think, it's almost like a formative period for Lan, having been, his parents being killed and spent so much time with Moiraine. He hasn't had a chance to be on his own as a man, and this is a chance for him to ask questions, to be with his fellow warders, to be with people he hasn't been with much, and really change as a person. So it's exciting.
It's a good vague tease. I am going to get into the specifics of one particular scene.
It's tricky.
I got to talk about one particular scene though in episode 1 of season 2. It's the fight you have with the Fades at the end of it. Can you tell me a little bit about filming a fight scene like that? And in particular, do you find a more intimate battle like that more or less challenging than something that's a little larger and maybe more effects heavy?
I find that one was incredibly challenging because 2 swords is very daunting. I mean, my left hand is nowhere nearly as skillful as my right, and to move them in concert is almost impossible, not to mention it was dark. Plus, I spoke about this before, that fight was meant to look messy, and making something look messy is much more difficult than making something look good. So that's almost like you have to take it apart after you perfect it, and now, dissect it and make it look worse. So it was very, very challenging, but hopefully it turned out okay.
Very, very effective. That quality of it makes it more visceral and makes us feel every blow that is landed throughout that whole sequence. So job especially well done in that respect. All right, Madeleine, I'm coming back to the idea of like her having a little bit of an identity crisis, particularly in terms of the jealous side of her that we're starting to see at the very beginning of season 2. What do you think sparks that jealousy in her the most? Is it, the need for her friend's attention, the Aes Sedai's attention, or is it an actual interest in having power and authority in this situation?
I think it's all of the above, really. She's very much an idealist, and I think she had an expectation of what the White Tower would be like and how she would be accepted there. The way that Nynaeve is moving up the ranks so effortlessly is really infuriating to her, because she's trying everything she can. She's so desperate to impress and do the right thing. And, she's just really become invisible. I think that, for her, having her confidence and her self-worth rocked is a massive blow to her. And, this is where her relationship with Elaine is so important, because she is someone that helps her build her confidence back up, is a really great confidant. And this is something that we will see with Egwene constantly throughout this season, is she is constantly trialed and tested. Her strength is tested, and she gains a better understanding of her abilities, and also her ideas of the White Tower and what that means to her changes really dramatically.
There are many paths to walk through the night. It's not always the most powerful who write history.
I am starting out with a big old compound question for you. What is a new quality that Nynaeve gained during the events of season 1 that you got to play with for the very first time in season 2? But then I also want to know, what is something about the Nynaeve that we met in the Two Rivers in season 1 that you deliberately wanted to hold especially tight to, so that we still get the feeling that, to some degree at least, she's the same person?
Oh, what a great question. I think what's wonderful about Nynaeve is that she will always be her. She doesn't suffer fools. What you see is what you get. She will not change for anyone. And I think she will always be that. I think what's been wonderful to play with in season 2 is more of her vulnerability. She can come across as very assertive and strong in her convictions, which she is, but she's also just like jelly underneath, and she cares so much about the people she loves. She will do absolutely anything for them. So I think it's been wonderful to play with this kind of stone-faced fierce character and also delve deep into her heart. Yeah.
That's a very accurate description, given how much of season 2 I've seen thus far. So you kind of touched on this a little bit. She does have a habit of rebelling against those in charge. So it was making me wonder, at this point in her journey, what qualities do you think she would respect most in a leader?
I think she probably would respect someone who tells it like it is. And to be honest, I think we've seen this in season 1. Moiraine is, not that person at all. So that's something that Nynaeve absolutely can't handle. I do think Nynaeve is someone who's a bit of a hypocrite, though. She's obviously an authority figure herself. She's from the Two Rivers and she was a wisdom, so she is someone that has, leadership and a leadership role. But she absolutely hates authority and hates to be told what to do herself. So yeah, she's a bit of a walking contradiction.
I'm going to add another layer to that whole idea right now. So let's say Nynaeve became the leader of the Aes Sedai. She was the new Amyrlin seat. What do you think the very first thing she would change about how things are run at the White Tower and also beyond, I guess?
I think she would potentially change the hierarchical system. I think we see that in the beginning, there's this discomfort being a novice, and that's essentially starting at the bottom and you're having to work your way up. I don't think she has any time for that. I think she'd probably like to see an institution that works more cohesively in the same way that the Two Rivers did. So that's maybe what should change.
Okay, I like that. Sign me up for her version. I much prefer
Yeah,
that.
I reckon.
So I want to talk specifically about Nynaeve's scenes with Leandrin because I found them to be some of the most electric ones of the first few episodes that we were able to screen. So can you tell me a little bit about working with Kate and, maybe specifically something about her as a scene partner that helped you reach something in Nynaeve that you would not have been able to without her?
Yeah, Kate is someone who's just like completely opposite to Leandrin, which is so funny. She is so warm and engaging and giving and loving. She's been actually she's been a massive support person for me on set. We've had, as you say, we've had to do some really intense scenes together, and that requires a lot of trust. I 100% trust her. I think there's just a generosity that's required to get to a level of play and openness and excitement that I share when I'm doing scenes with Kate, and she always gives that. We've been given the joy of playing some really interesting characters that have a very distinct relationship, and I think we've both been so excited by that prospect. So yeah, we're both leaned into that.
I love that dynamic so much. And finally, very briefly, what is your favorite episode of season 2?
I'm going to say 3.
I've only seen up to 4, but at this point, I will say that is the right answer.
It's the ones who survive.
I'm tired of being a spoke in the wheel.
You're not a spoke, boy. You are the water that turns the wheel itself.
All right, Dónal, I'll come your way first because joining a show in the second season can be very intimidating. So do you remember the very first moment when the Wheel of Time set felt like home, like you were amidst a bunch of artists that could help you deliver your best work?
Do you know what? I'm absolutely spoiled that I didn't have to wait like very long for that moment to come. And I recognize that as a blessing. And I think that was because the way that all of this happened for me was like a bit of a whirlwind experience, and that was madly exciting, and it allowed me not to dwell on any of the like you said, that there can be like a quality of it being daunting or there being nerves, but I came into it, and as you know, like from those first episodes, they are scenes that are set in one room with just 2 people talking, and that gave it almost the quality of a play, like being a stage play. And I think because Kate, who's phenomenal in those scenes, as well as Leandrin and Thomas, kind of recognized that we maybe linked into that, and we managed to, go to a studio space, a black box, and kind of run these scenes in tandem, and to kind of find the flow of it, that it allowed me to feel very comfortable straight away. And then also those days on set, I got to come in to that space really early on, and it's a cell that Matt has been in for months at a time. So, I kind of got time to sit in that space before we did any work, and to kind of, feel my feet on the ground, and to kind of, make up the stories of what he's done in the room and where he spent his time and that. And so, and that was all, testament to everyone who was around us supporting us, like the lads in the set design and costume and hair and makeup, and Thomas, our director for those episodes, and getting to do the scenes with Kate was just phenomenal. Like, so I didn't have to wait very long for a moment to feel connected and rooted and at home in the Wheel of Time, even though, I'd hate for that to be my home, that room.
It's exceptional stuff to start. Very dynamic material for stuff that takes place in one single location. So a job very well done in that respect. Ceara, I'll go to you next as our second newcomer here. So we get our very first impressions of Elaine via her interactions with Egwene, I believe in the second episode. So I wanted to ask you a little bit about working with Madeleine on those. What is something about her as a scene partner that, maybe helped you define who Elaine was in those first few episodes that will then carry over through the rest of the season?
I think I was really blessed to kind of be working with Madeleine on those first episodes. She's an incredible actress with incredible body of work behind her. So she not only was she kind of just so supportive and really helped me kind of with those first scenes, but it was great to kind of play alongside Egwene, and she really has a sense when you're kind of working against her that she knows who she is. And I think that was such a challenge to play against as Elaine, because I think she thinks she knows who she is, and she knows that she's going to be queen one day, and she's very kind of, she thought she knew everything, and then she's meeting this character and she's like, oh wow, she's maybe braver than I am, and I'm meant to be the queen, like I need to be brave. So it was amazing to kind of have that energy to work off, and yeah, I can never sing Madeleine's praises enough.
I love it. I'm excited to see that dynamic explored further in the next episodes. Marcus, you're getting my one hyper specific question here, because you're at the center of one of my favorite scenes in episode 1. It's the speech you give about Padan Fain and Perrin feeling the need to kill him. So what is it like preparing for a significant monologue like that, and also particularly finding the right balance between, you know, heartbreak, fear, and also that really overwhelming sense of rage?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I think yeah, I think it was quite nice because he doesn't really talk that much in season 1. So I think it was I was like, oh my God, like that's probably more than I said in season 1. But it was cool. I think Thomas kind of gave and set this scene, and I think it kind of felt like two kind of like mates talking, like two men probably struggling to actually like get their feelings out within Perrin and Ingtar. And we kind of set it almost in like a contemporary context. And I think, yeah, I think Perrin's obviously been holding this in for so long. But I think there's been a camaraderie through their journey when we find them. So I think opening up to Ingtar at that moment, it felt like something had been bubbling underneath. I think there's a rage, like he says, that's inside of him that he's quite scared of, and I think he's quite intimidated of. And I think it's worrisome because I think it might bring back memories of what, you know, happened in that first episode in season 1. So I think he's still a character that's not showing all his emotions yet, but it was really nice in those kind of first kind of scenes to kind of go through the gears a bit and show a different side to him.